Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Hump Day.
Uh-oh. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. Today is Hump Day. This is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I always like to say, the fun is all in the trying. Unfortunately, Mike will not be beginning the weekend today because, well, he's off a-working. He's off making them dollar bills. And so can't be mad at him because this, we do live in a free market economy, and a free market economy, stuff ain't free. Got to pay for it. And so he's out there earning those dollar bills in order to be able to pay for it. But that's okay. Because I got you, and you got me, and we're here. We're going to be having a good conversation talking about the news of the day. But before we head down that road, let's go ahead and start off the way we usually do, which is with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels. Now, these barrels are available at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. Now, if you've purchased an AR in the last few years, there's a really good chance you already have one in there, barrel. So why not get another one? Why not? Whether you're doing a brand new build or whether you're looking to rebarrel your old rifle, start your project, start your experience, start your journey over at Hitman Industries. And then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government. From school board all the way up to President of the United States, Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to find out why. How do you do that? Visit their website. CRAGOP.org. That's CRAGOP.org. You want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. That would be at hawgholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. Why is it spelled like that? Because they like helping Americans wear guns. They like it so much that if you use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, you're going to get a nifty little discount. So get your Hog holster today. And then finally, if you're looking to buy some tactical gear, as the weather's changing, as the season's changing, it's getting awfully nice out there to go do some shooting, clearly you're going to need some new gear. Now, this is an entity, these folks specialize in group sales. So you need to get your agency together. You need to get your club together. You need to get your group together, whatever your group is, and get on over to uscombatgear.com. Now, at uscombatgear.com, once again, they specialize in group sales, so you're going to get a deep discount. They've got a huge selection. No matter what you're looking for, you can find it there at their website. And then finally, they have the best customer service available on the market. So check them out today, uscombatgear.com, where you can find all things tactical except the gun. Now, finally, I want to remind you that if you're watching this program 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, well, then you're watching us live. And if you're watching us live, well, then we're taking your comments. So, matter of fact, I'm looking at them right over here for those of you who are watching the program and commenting. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear what you think about the program, what you think about the particular topic. Shoot, you don't even have to agree with us for us to share your comment. In fact, we hope that you would disagree with us, because when you disagree with us, well, that gives us the opportunity to mock you.
Oh, wow. Is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
Yep, that's right. That gives us the opportunity to mock you. And as I like to say, we will mock you. Anyway, actually, I take that back. That's what Mike would say. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's program. We are now, officially, I believe that we're now in day 5. Let's see, we got Saturday, we got Sunday, we got Monday, we got Tuesday, we got Wednesday. So we're actually in day 5. But in just 4 days of epic fury, according to the White House, we have already unleashed more shock and awe, right? More than during the era of shock and awe in 4 days than all of the previous shock and awe. Those words coming from none other than the Secretary of War, Mr. Pete Hegseth.
Well, good morning. I stand before you today with one unmistakable message about Operation Epic Fury. America is winning. decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy. Under the direct command of President Trump, the War Department unleashed this operation early Saturday morning, just 4 days ago, which means we need to remember two things. First, we are only 4 days into this. Metrics are shifting, dust is settling, and more forces are arriving. It's very early, and as President Trump has said, we will take all the time we need to make sure that we succeed. Second, we are only 4 days into this, and the results have been incredible. Historic, really. Only the United States of America could lead this, only us. But when you add the Israeli Defense Forces, a devastatingly capable force, the combination is sheer destruction for our radical Islamist Iranian adversaries. They are toast, and they know it. Or at least, soon enough, they will know it. And we have only just begun to hunt, dismantle, demoralize, destroy, and defeat their capabilities, just 4 days in. Starting last night and to be completed in a few days, in under a week, the two most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders, flying over Tehran, flying over Iran, flying over their capital, flying over the IRGC, Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it. B-2s, B-52s, B-1s, Predator drones, fighters, controlling the skies, picking targets. Death and destruction from the sky all day long. We're playing for keeps. Our warfighters have maximum authorities granted personally by the president and yours truly. Our rules of engagement are bold, precise, and designed to unleash American power, not shackle it. This was never meant to be a fair fight, and it is not a fair fight. We are punching them while they're down, which is exactly how it should be. Thus far, Operation Epic Fury has delivered twice the air power of shock and awe of Iraq in 2003, minus Paul Bremer and the nation building. The campaign...
All right, I just wanted to make sure to hit. I wanted to make sure I played. I realized that was a little bit of a long clip, but yeah, no, that was interesting because once again, he's pointing out that we have actually done, and he goes on to point out that we've actually put out basically about 7 to 17 times, I believe, more than even the 12-day war that Israel had put together. I mean, this has just been complete and utter dominance. I mean, people need to understand, and as he pointed out, when they look in the sky, if you are in Iraq and you look in the sky, or I'm sorry, in Iran, and you look in the sky, if it's flying, it's either Israeli or it's American. That is where we are right now. So for folks who, we'll get into we'll talk about the next thing, but I think what he's trying to point out here, what he wanted to point out here was basically that, look, right now we are being dominant, right? And what I think he's really trying to focus on is help people to understand, this is not like other wars. This is not like the Bush wars. This is not like the Afghanistan or Iraq. These are not sending hundreds of thousands of troops on the ground who are going to be there for decade or decades. This is literally all about making sure that, number one, we want to make sure that both at sea and in the air, we have complete and utter dominance, right? I mean, you need to know that the timeline for this particular war was they were estimating 4 to 5 weeks. And they're saying right now we are ahead of schedule. And when you say we're ahead of schedule, that means that when you talk about shock and awe, I mean, we are literally bombing the crap out of them. Not only are we unleashing more bombs, but we're being more effective in where those bombs are and what it is that they are doing. And I would really love to see kind of what the casualty rates are. I would love to see how successful we are being when it comes to protecting innocent life. Now, mind you, it is still war. There are going to be casualties. There's going to be civilians, sadly, innocent civilians who are unfortunately are going to be collateral damage, and there's also some of our soldiers that are going to lose their lives. In fact, as far as I know right now, and I haven't checked the number, but as of yesterday, that number was 6, and all 6 basically died in one retaliation that took place in Kuwait. Evidently, the system that was supposed to be tracking drones coming in was having some difficulties, and a drone basically got through on a base there in Kuwait. But other than that, we haven't lost anybody. As far as I know, as far as I know, I haven't checked the numbers yet today. It got so, we have been so dominant that when they decided to get all the clerics together and elect a new supreme leader, well, turns out we bombed them. Right. So, and I still don't know that we know how many people, and I haven't seen reports telling us how many people we've taken out there. But for the most part, the whole thing is we're doing well. So hopefully what this means is now that they've selected a new supreme leader, the new supreme leader is actually the son of the Ayatollah al-Khomeini. So, and this was a guy who everyone thought was kind of the weakest of all the choices. He was like the last person they thought that they would select. Now, he may be the highest person left alive. He may be the most significant official left. But I'm willing to bet if this guy is smart, well, if he's smart, his first call is going to be to the United States. It's going to be to President Trump. It's going to be, yeah, we're done. What do you want? You want us to, you want all of our missiles? Take them. You want all of our nuclear? I mean, here's the thing that I found out in some of the research that I've been doing. So when they sat down to negotiate, basically the negotiators for Iran were bragging that they had enough nuclear material that if they had the time, which basically was about a week, to process it, they had enough nuclear material for 11 bombs. That was the beginning of their negotiations. They refused to give up their nuclear program. They refused to give up their ballistic missile program. And keep in mind, they were using their ballistic missile program. You can kind of tell what they were doing. They've attacked all of their neighbors with their short-range missiles, and they've still got several thousand of their longer-range missiles. So what the whole point is that if they had a nuclear weapon and they had more ballistic missiles, and by the way, these missiles, it costs them tens of thousands of dollars to produce. Each missile that we use to knock it down costs us millions. So this was going to start to become a war of money. In other words, as they continue to shoot at us and to shoot at Israel, and we go to shoot those missiles down, they're spending tens of thousands, we're spending millions in order to be able to shoot them down. So the whole idea is we need to see their entire ballistic missile program gone. Got to go. And they're well on their way to that. That is one of their goals. Number 2, they not only are they not allowed to be, but because, by the way, keep in mind, they had already gone back and they had already started rebuilding their capacity to create nuclear weapons. They were already reconstituting their program, and they refused to not reconstitute it. That's a whole nother issue. No more nuclear weapons. You don't get to have nuclear weapons because you can't act responsibly. You decide you want to challenge and you want to basically kill all of us. Yeah, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to threaten us here in the United States And you don't get to threaten us and say you want to kill us, you want to kill the great Satan, and then not expect us to, expect us to wait until you have the capacity to do it. That's not going to happen. So yeah, so Operation Epic Fury is it's all over shock and awe, and it's in what we are doing, we are putting ourselves in a position to be able to end this war, hopefully earlier, a lot earlier than anyone had anticipated. And that brings me to the lie that the left keeps telling about the quote unquote no new wars. They completely and utterly are ignoring a very simple fact. And by the way, just so you know, and I wanted to show you this search. So I just typed in no new wars because I wanted you to have an idea of exactly what folks were doing and some of the stories that are being pushed out here. Here you have NPR, Trump promised MAGA base, no new wars. He went to war with Iran. NBC News, Trump campaigned against endless wars, enters Iran with no end date. No, but he had specific goals, specific things that we were going to have happen when we do it. Let's see. Republican warmongers are back in control. Why J.D. Vance lost the MAGA battle over no new wars. And yes, J.D. Vance is probably the most protectionist individual in the administration. And even he has said, look, our main thing is we've got to have goals. We have goals. We're meeting those goals. And we're going to be, basically all evidence points to the fact that this is not going to be an ongoing war. Trump, the self-declared peace president, goes to war seeking regime change. Trump riffs, no new wars, Iran regime. Now, I decided that I was going to go ahead and I went to Grok. So now Grok gave me two different answers. So one, it says, yes, he said he made promises during the 2024 presidential campaign in his election night victory speech to avoid starting new wars in what would become his second term. For instance, November 2023 speech, he said, I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. And that's exactly what he is doing here. I need you to understand something. They were going to start this war. They had already basically this war had never stopped is the problem. But the number one thing that he had pointed out in all that he said and all he did, and by the way, let's look at where they got the sources. So let's see. They got it from NBC News. They got it from LA Times. They got it from Democrats. They got it from YouTube. So in other words, they went to all of these liberal sources, right? Now, let's try this one. Let's ask them this. Okay. Did he promise no new wars or no endless wars? And now Grok is going to think about the request and it's going to look it up. But the idea here, once again, it says here, clarifying campaign focus on no new wars while endless wars, distinguishing no new wars. So right now Grok is thinking about it. Oh God, it's looking through Facebook. So, it's going to pick up a bunch of weird stuff because, Facebook and Twitter don't necessarily look to the truth. But anyway, the point, though, that I wanted to make here was his main focus was no new wars. In other words, he didn't want to have a meaningless war. He didn't want to go into war with no actual purpose. Now, as Rubio actually pointed out, this was something that Israel was going to be engaging in, and we knew once Israel got engaged, well, then we were going to be targeted. We just knew that. Because keep in mind, Israel is the little Satan. We are the great Satan, right? Right? We are the actual great Satan. So let's see here. Now, it says here, it says the phrase no endless wars, similar like ending wars, was a reoccurring theme in his earlier rhetoric, including criticisms of past administrations' entanglement in the U.S. for prolonged Middle East conflicts. So once again, the whole point here is number one, we didn't start this, but we are going to finish it. And once again, I'll go back over decades, and there basically are decades through 7 presidencies of instances where Iran has attacked us over and over and over again, where they have taken American lives, taken American hostages, where they have blown stuff up. and we did absolutely nothing. Well, and by the way, while at the same time, every time they get together and meet, they start off with their chants, death to America. So once again, is this something we started? No. I think we escalated. I'll definitely give you that. I definitely believe that we escalated this, but I wouldn't sit here and say that we started this. And I think anyone who believes or was want to argue that we started it, yeah, y'all weren't going to like it no matter what he did. Let's just be honest. You weren't going to like. You're the ones who wanted him to negotiate, and we're talking about the fact that he's going to wind up negotiating with them, and it's basically going to wind up with the same deal that Barack Obama had. You know, where they let them enrich a little bit, and we give them stacks of cash. Well, guess what? Instead of dropping pallets of cash, we drop pallets of bombs. And, well, anyway, they are paying the price. And by the way, just so you know, they had every opportunity to say, we're going to shut down our ballistic missile program. We're going to shut down our nuclear enrichment program. And, you know, they could have done like other regimes have done and just lied. But they don't. They chose not to. They chose to say, nope, we're still going to do this. So what were we supposed to do? I need you to understand that. We were negotiating. We had certain things we wanted. Three things. End your ballistic missile program. End your nuclear program. Don't kill your own people, those protesters. They refused and kept enriching uranium for their nuclear program. They kept building new missiles, so they refused to get rid of their missile program. And they killed over 30,000 protesters. Now, how many red lines do you allow them to cross before they pay a price? Go ahead. Tell me in the comments. Tell me how many more, if you disagree with what's going on here, how many more red lines should the president have allowed them to cross? Please, go ahead. Tell me. Oh, you got nothing to say. You have nothing to say because President Trump made it very clear. And here's the other thing. We now have a president who means what he says and says what he means in terms of if he makes a promise, if he says he's going to do a thing and you test him, he will do that thing. Right? He said he was going to bomb the hell out of them. And guess what he's done? He didn't have to. They didn't have to make him, but they chose to. So, and by the way, once again, with minimal, and I feel very comfortable saying this, minimal loss of life. I'm not saying no loss of life. I'm saying minimal loss of life. All right, we got a couple of things going on here in the state of Texas, and it's a mess in Texas right now. So the primary season has begun, and with the beginning of the primary season, it began right there in the great state of Texas, and we got some interesting outcomes for the election. First of all, we have billionaire-backed Tallarico shrugs off racism scandal to steal Senate nod from Jasmine Crockett. But that's not the only thing that took. Well, but wait, before we get into that's not the only thing that took place. But I want you to hear what Jasmine Crockett had to say in her. I don't know if we want to call it. I don't know that I would call this a concession speech, but she definitely had some things to say, and somehow figured out a way to blame the fact that a Democrat beat her on Republicans.
We don't have any of the results because there was a lot of confusion today. And so, our Democratic Party chair, Cardall Coleman, he beat me to the punch, as myself and Colin Allred. We're about to file a lawsuit to keep the voting polls open. We were able to keep the polls open. But I can tell you now that people have been disenfranchised. The reason that we knew that there were problems is because we were receiving the phone calls and the emails. The polls were supposed to stay open until 9, according to a court order. The Supreme Court, just a few minutes ago, just said, shut it down. The Supreme Court also said that they are to separate any votes out that came in after 7 p.m. So here's the deal. I have no idea how it is that clerks are going to know who was in line by what time, because the rule is that if you're in line by 7, then you get to vote. And so once there was a court order saying you had until 9, I'm sure that there were people that joined the line after 7. They now are telling them that you have to separate the votes out. What this means is that we will not know what votes are to be tallied from Election Day out of Dallas County. For sure, we won't know that tonight. So knowing that Dallas County is a big dump of votes, we, in my opinion, will not know the election results overall tonight. We need to see the Dallas County votes to see where they are. I mean, if the early vote comes in, which we may have the early vote soon, if it comes in and I'm losing Dallas County, then we know kind of where this thing is going. So so that's my news, is that we're not going to have election results tonight, in my opinion, based upon what specifically is taking place in Dallas County. Unfortunately, this is what Republicans like to do. And so they specifically targeted Dallas County, and I think we all know why. So I want you to enjoy yourselves, but I won't be back tonight because I have no idea of when we're going to get results, and I fully anticipate it won't be until tomorrow. So I love y'all too.
Okay, so basically she's saying that, Republicans got them to shut down. Basically, they wanted to extend the voting hours, and the reality is she lost. And somehow she decided to blame it on Republicans, but she lost. She lost in her primary. And that's not the only interesting news coming out of Texas when it comes to the primary election. It says here, longtime Senator John Cornyn, Republican of Texas, is in the fight of his life against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and both of them will face Representative West for the GOP primary nomination, U.S. Senate. No, wait, hold on. When is this article? Well, no wonder I pulled the wrong article. There we go. Let's pull this one. That was from yesterday. Here's your 5 takeaways from the primaries. Well, one of the things is Texas Republicans will head for a runoff, and that's because Senator John Cornyn, Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton will be in a runoff because no one basically got more than 50% of the vote for the Republicans. So basically, you're going to have John Cornyn against Paxton, and this is going to be a tough one because John Cornyn's been around for a while. Now, the problem with Cornyn is, and I get there's a lot of folks. I love listening to Ben Shapiro, and he loves talking about how cool Cornyn is and how bad Paxton is because Paxton's, he does have some baggage, but he's a conservative. And one thing that he's not, and where I think Cornyn has a real problem is John Cornyn is anti-gun, period. He has supported gun control. I mean, he's not the worst of the worst when it comes to anti-gun stuff, but he has supported red flag laws. He has supported restrictions on 18 to 20-year-olds purchasing firearms. He has refused to participate in, or at least to support the idea of national concealed carry reciprocity. He's not one of us. If you are a firm supporter of the Second Amendment, if you believe in the concept of shall not be infringed, he's not one of us. And I don't know how you get to be one of us and be in the Senate from Texas. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you get away with not being one of us, but he's not. and Ken Paxton is. But like I said, Ken Paxton's got his own issues, and Republicans there, in particular, establishment Republicans there in Texas, they don't like Ken Paxton. And so the question is going to be, and this is something that's important to note, because if you look at the outcome of the election, let me pull it up here so you can see it. So this right here will show you. So you had about 905,000 votes for Cornyn, about 870 or about 880,000 votes for Paxton. Now, you also had a third major candidate in the race, Wesley Hunt, who, by the way, was my favorite amongst the group because he has the conservatism of a Ken Paxton without the baggage, or the conservative of Paxton without the baggage, right? So he is someone who's a really sharp guy and has definitely got a future there. But then on the Democratic side, and here's the funny part. So she lost 46-53, right? 46-53. Jasmine Crockett lost to Tallarico. Now, the challenge they're going to deal with here is when you add the numbers up, they're really, really close. In fact, I believe more Democrats wound up voting in this particular election than did Republicans. So if Republicans are going to hold on to this seat, they're going to have to get some folks to show up. They're going to have to work seriously hard on voter turnout. And the problem is that you got people who don't like Paxton who aren't going to show up. And you got people who don't like Cornyn, right? So then the question is going to be, so first they're going to have to do the runoff, and either one of them is going to have a problem. By the way, they're also going to have to spend a lot more money. Cornyn spent $70 million to get a runoff by the hair of his chinny chin. And I'm willing to bet that when I look at the folks who supported Wesley, I'm willing to bet there are more Hunt supporters who are going to go to Paxton than are going to go to Cornyn. I would bet dollars to donuts on that. So there's a very, very good chance that Ken Paxton winds up being the nominee. Then the question is going to be, is the establishment going to get behind Paxton? If they don't, they're going to have a hard time. Now, the interesting thing about Paxton is that in polls that have been done, Tallarico, who's the Democrat, he's been shown that or at least according to polls so far, it's shown that he has a better chance of beating Paxton than he does Cornyn. So Cornyn would win if it were I take that back. In both cases, I believe that they're showing that Tallarico would win. Now, Tallarico's an interesting cat, and I'm not going to get in. I want to talk about him because I want to give him a little bit more time, because this is a guy who went to seminary part-time. This is a guy who perverts the Bible to make you believe that it's what Democrats support. He wants you to believe that God is non-binary, right? He wants you to believe that God supports open borders and all of the other liberal dribble that he wants you to believe. And he does so by perverting the word. And you know what? There are liberal Christians who fall in line. I would love for some of the folks from seminary, some of the folks out there, and I know that there are a number of pastors right there in Texas who are going to take Mr. Tallarico to task on some of his positions. But once again, I just thought it was interesting that they went out of their way, that Crockett went out of her way. She couldn't just accept the fact that she lost, right? To another Democrat. And she couldn't blame that other Democrat either. She couldn't blame the fact that, you know what, maybe Democrats in Texas just aren't interested in a Black Lives Matter, a BLM, code switching, for lack of a better term, wannabe ghetto girl, representing them. And because that's who she was. I literally just described her. She's not a dummy. Let me be clear. She's not a dummy. She deliberately chose to be, as I noted, a BLM supporting, code switching, wannabe ghetto girl, Instagram ghetto girl, or TikTok ghetto girl, whichever one you want to say. She chose that. She chose that because she felt like this was going to be her way to become popular. And she thought popular was going to get her elected. Now, it may have worked in her little left-leaning, ultra-left district that she was in, but it's not something that's going to win you the state of Texas. It just isn't. It just isn't. Especially not the state of Texas. Right? It might have won her Dallas. It might have won her Austin. Might have won her San Antonio in Texas. You notice I just mentioned 3 major cities. But it's not going to win you Texas. That's just not going to happen. Because in Texas, the Democrats in Texas, most of them, they want someone who's kind of normal. They do. And she's normal. She's just not normal, if you know what I mean. She's not Texas normal, right? And what they want is they at least want someone who looks and acts normal. And that's, I mean, other than trying to be an evangelical left-wing progressive Marxist, Tallarico comes across as normal. Now, anyone who knows anything about the Bible knows that half the stuff he's saying is BS, but at least he's pretending. At least he's putting in the good college try. They can easily say, look, we got a guy who likes the word of God. You forgot one word. He likes perverting the word of God. Anyway, all of that having been said, let's get on to our next subject. Walz appeared before Congress and decided to have a good conversation with the folks over in Congress. And they were talking about, he was on the hot seat, and they were talking about the issue of, fraud, waste, and abuse there in Minnesota. And he decided to blame Republicans, oddly enough.
How many people have been indicted in your state right now? Do you know, Governor?
I don't have those numbers with me.
You don't? 98 people been indicted. You happen to know how many are Somali American?
I don't. We don't investigate or prosecute people based on ethnicity, religion.
Neither do I. We shouldn't do that. But Mr. Megan is a Somali American who just said that the core one of the concerns was this is a core voting block. And I just want to know if you know how many of the 98 people who have been indicted in your state are Somali.
I don't. Their ethnicity is not my concern.
85% of the people indicted were Somali American, key voting block. And I think that's what drove this whole thing.
Well, and that was the thing that basically they were pointing to is he tried to say, well, he's trying to say that basically Republicans are targeting minorities or targeting the Somali community. And the whole point that Jim Jordan was trying to make, the reason why they're trying to, they seem to be targeting that community is for 2 reasons. One, 85 out of 94 people who were indicted and convicted were from the Somalian community. Disproportionate impact, disparate impact, shall we say? In other words, unless Walz is saying that there's a whole lot more people out there who are not Somalian who are committing fraud in the state of Minnesota, which means that they're just barely scratching the surface of the fraud that's taking place in that state. Is that what he's saying? Is he saying that they're only targeting Somalians who are committing the fraud? Or is he? What exactly is he saying? Is he saying that? Well, he said, well, we don't prosecute based on their race or ethnicity, but we've already found evidence that they don't investigate based on race or ethnicity, because all the Somalian community has to do is cry the race card. Say that you're investigating us because you're racist and you're racist against our community. That's why you're investigating us. I mean, we already know that to be the case, right? We've already seen it. The evidence has already been brought forth by whistleblowers. Whistleblowers who are part of the Walz administration, who are working right there in Minnesota, who said, we've been raising red flags about this stuff since 2018. And y'all said nothing. Y'all wouldn't let us do anything. In fact, We were threatened. That's what they were saying. They were threatened that if they brought it up, well, they were going to get in trouble. That they would be charged with, that they would be investigated for civil rights violations. Who brought that up? Who made those accusations? Members of the Walz administration. So, I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell you. I really don't. So in other words, what they're saying is they don't prosecute based on race, but or nationality. But what we do know is they don't investigate. They sure as heck don't investigate or investigate based on race and ethnicity. That's what I get out of that little saying right there. Anyway, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, and get your Hog Holster today. All of our parting shots will be brought to you today by our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. The first one here, this says sad. Iran's Assembly of Experts forgets to include expert on not getting blown up. Oops. Yeah, they got blown up. So my son this morning, Craig Jr., decided to let me know, does this qualify as election interference? I was like, yeah, I guess it does. I guess it does. All right, next. To save time, Iran appoints supreme leader who's already dead. Yeah, that would kind of save some time. Of course, makes it easier to, you don't have to kill them if they're already dead, right? Right? Not funny? Okay. Well, funny to me anyway. Oh, here's a good one. America graciously converts 20 Iranian warships into 20 new submarines. Ouch. Yeah, well, you know what? That's, once again, FAFO. Mess around and find out. Or freak around and find out, however you want to poise that particular term. And then finally, Biden asked why Trump didn't just bomb the Ayatollah in the leg. Yeah, that's because he's an idiot. He didn't actually say that, just so you know. Once again, fake news that you can trust. Folks, if you don't subscribe to the Babylon Bee, the only thing I ever read over at the Babylon Bee is their headlines. And you know what? They are funny enough. I want them to stay in business. I'm a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, you need to become a subscriber, because we need folks who can bring this sort of, I hate to say this, in many cases, man, look, I would be really, really angry if people didn't have the ability to make me laugh about some of the stupid things that the left is doing. I would lose my mind. And they're an example of someone who really helps me not lose my mind. So once again, you need to do the same. And that's with any conservative news outlet. Look, whether they're your primary source or they are a source, they should be a source. I can tell you right now, because I have several news outlets that are clients, and I will tell you right now, they're having a challenge making money on advertising. They are, right? That's the reason why they need you to subscribe. It's the reason why when they ask you to donate, if they don't have a subscription, they need additional revenue. If you want them to keep doing what they're doing, if you value what it is that they are doing, because the corporations are supporting the left-leaning media, right? If you want honest news or you want conservative-leaning news, you got to support those entities. You got to support the Daily Wires. You got to support the Newsmaxes or the OANs. You got to support the Washington Free Beacons, the Bearing Arms. You got to support the New York Post or the California Post. You got to support the Babylon Bees, right? They're the ones that are helping get the word out. They're the ones that are helping us out. They're the ones that are, at the very least, sometimes sharing truth, sometimes helping us see things from our ideological perspective, and sometimes just helping us laugh. Sometimes just entertaining. That's all good. Anyway. All right, that now brings us to the end of our show. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We've got Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length at hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Visit their website at cragop.org. We've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then we've got the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. All All right, folks, that's going to be it for today. We will be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana.